I think when you're asked how you were cast or why you were cast in a part, it's probably one of the most difficult questions to answer because, quite honestly, mainly, you don't know. There must have been some particular part of your personality or the way you looked or something like that that made you fit into that slot in the story. And I think perhaps in Swallows and Amazons, with this lovely young family that my character had in the film, perhaps they thought, I looked the right sort of mother to have adventurous children. If I'm honest, I can't really say that I felt apprehensive or nervous about playing mother in the film. It wasn't like that. It wasn't frightening or overwhelming or daunting atmosphere on the set. I was all on location, the part I was in anyway, up in Windermere. And it was just so happy and so lovely. So I didn't really feel nervous about that. I was surrounded by people who were just marvellous, particularly the children, and of course the most wonderful director in Claude Botham. Claude was the most wonderful director to work with. He knew exactly what he wanted, which isn't always the case with the director. Sometimes they're sort of feeling their way as well of how they want to do a scene, but he was sensitive with the children, which endeared me to him tremendously. He just made it as relaxed and happy as any film could be, which was perfect for this story because it, in a way, it was a relaxed and happy story with children having loads of fun. Mother was the only part which had a slightly more boring time because she was always on land, whereas they were all scooting off in boats and being on islands and things.
Right. Have you got everything?
I've checked the list.
Everything?
One might almost say by gum. We couldn't have lit a fire without them.
Safe voyage. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I think innocence was probably, for me, the main theme of the film. Childish innocence, the fun that children, the freedom to do things and have adventures and fun that sadly doesn't happen in the same way anymore. The world is much more dangerous now, and in those days they could go off and camp on an island and nobody thought twice about it. And I mean, isn't that wonderful? It's a great shame that it's when children now go off and have adventures, it's more structured, it's more formal, it's more arranged. Then it's just, pack the sandwiches, get in the boat, row out there and light the campfire. And that is just a brilliant way for children to grow up, I think. Working with children has always been something I've loved doing. I've worked a lot with children in my professional life, and there's nothing more wonderful than learning from children, watching children, having fun with them. It's so rewarding. It's a dimension which you don't actually get, obviously, when you're only working with grown-ups, but there's something which is especially rewarding in working with children because they are, well, I suppose it's that word innocent again. They're not bowed down with experience and how, it's better to do it this way or that way. They feel it, they do it. And Claude was wonderful at getting that spontaneous reaction from them. When I saw it for, the first and only time, really, I thought Arthur Ransom would have been happy because I think it was very faithful to the way he wrote the story, the essence of childhood, the innocent childhood which he captured so beautifully. I do think Claude reproduced that superbly. And I think that's probably why the film has lasted over the years. I mean, people often come up to me still and say, "Oh, you Swallows and Amazons, I did love that film." Even now they say that to me, which is a credit to the way it was made.
Why were you back so late last night? After I left Titty, I spent a long time on the lookout for you.
We didn't get back till morning.
Oh, the Blacketts made you spend the night. Poor Titty.
It wasn't poor Titty at all. She did better than the rest of us. She captured the Amazon, all by herself,
Where were the blackheads?
on Wildcat Island.
In a funny way, I'm not really surprised that they still like the film or connect with it, because it represents a lost time. It's a childhood that, as I think I said a little earlier in a different way, hardly exists anymore because children have to be so much more protected now. And so that wonderful freedom that children had in those days to have adventures and to be themselves and fight the pirates or whatever it happens to be, and they could use their imagination, and they weren't... Now, of course, there were limits, as Mother insisted there have to be certain limits, but nevertheless, overall, there was that wonderful freedom to have adventures in those distant times that children no longer have. And I think possibly for grown-ups and mothers and grandmothers now, they rejoice in being reminded of those days because they were so lovely and so precious. 40 years on from having made the film, it's a long time ago, isn't it? But in your life, I think certain things never fade from your memory. And the enjoyment, the happiness that I had in my very small part in the film, actually, but the fun I had being with the children, making the film, working with people of such integrity, those things never really fade. And so for all those reasons, I'm thrilled to bits to be reminded of it now.